of the famous rabbis of yesteryear. Now, I want to speak about a rabbi we haven't mentioned many times before, I believe, on this series, Rabbi Dr. Asher Yitzchak Hannanel, famous rabbi. I believe he was chief rabbi of the Jewish community of Sofia, which was a very prominent position at the time. Later on, he would become actually the chief rabbi of Bulgaria, respectively. So various different importances, let's just say, he had in himself. He was born, I believe, on July the 1st, 1895, passed away September 26th, 1964, just over 60 years ago. Much can be said within regards to him. Let's explore a few of the highlights of the famous rabbi's life, let's say, as we get started over here. So I think there's a lot that we can actually say within regards to him. Just to start off, he was, I think, the chief rabbi of Bulgaria. I think it was at a specific time. I think it was in the year. We're going to speak more about his, let's say, the latter part of his life, because I haven't got that much information within regards to earlier. But I think if we go back early, I think he was born in an area called Shuman, to a family of merchants, and I think some of them are rabbis. His grandfather was known among the Jews of Shuman as Chacham Hannanel. He was a rabbi of the community, although I don't think he had an official appointment, his grandfather did, or recognition by the authorities. He was known as a rabbi over there, and very much, I think, partaking in various importances in Bulgarian Jewry. Now, he would receive his primary education system learning in the school of Alliance Israelite Universal, the Kol Yisrael Chaverim network inside that city at that point in time. We spoke about the Alliance school system. It was a Jewish school system concentrating more especially on languages. It wasn't as much seen as a religious school as some of the other alternatives, that I will say from the outset, but it was one that was much more academic, let's just say, or a language based. I think in World War I, he did go through some world wars. He fought as an officer, I think, in the Bulgarian army. Sadly, he was wounded, and I think he would actually, because of his efforts inside the war, he would receive an Iron Cross of the second class, and is considered as a Bulgarian war hero. After the war, he would graduate, I think, from law, study law at the University of Sofia University. He would go on then to study postgraduate degree in the University of Vienna. Now, I believe it was the year 1920. It happened to be the leaders of, let's say, Sofia Jewry would actually decide to grant Rabbi Hannanel a scholarship for rabbinical studies over there at that point in time. They saw the potential in him. So I don't think he progressed with law studies at that point in time. He would go to the rabbinical seminary in Breslau, and he would study there for as many as 7 years. Now, after he would successfully pass his exams, he was appointed chief rabbi of the Jews of Sofia and head of its rabbinical courts. This is like a prominent position at that point in time, very, very important position, and much can be said within regards to it. I really hope at one stage we can actually maybe concentrate on the history of Bulgarian Jews, just to see, learn about the science behind Bulgarian Jewry. That would definitely be great, important to add on to this series. I think, especially the time period of before the Second World War, there'll be about more than 46,000 people living, I think, in Bulgaria. But I think in modern day, there's only just over 5,000, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, let's explore more with regards to him. He would become the chief rabbi of the Jewish community of Sofia, head of rabbinical court. I think the religious life of Bulgarian Jews at that stage in time when he came in was not at the best level possibly. There was the departure of Rabbi Mordechai Ehrenfreis, who I think happened to have been a writer, a translator, a publicist, and a Zionistic activist. He, let's say, demonstrated a great dominance in his position, and I think at that point in time there was no chief rabbi that was appointed. At the same time, I think the Jewish consistory of Bulgaria relegated the rabbinate to a secondary role in the management of the communities. There was secularization over there, and I think that was partly due to there being a communist party in Bulgaria, which would contribute, I think, at that point in time, to a more religious decline at that point in time. Now, I think Rabbi Hannanel would go on to carry out various reforms in the rabbinate apparatus. He would translate prayers into Bulgarian and Ladino, and delivered sermons among the Jews of Sofia, in which he preached, let's just say, he would send members, I think, of the community to Hebrew schools rather than government ones. and he tried to prevent assimilation, and he was really trying to counteract that. And I think at that point in time when he was in Sofia, he didn't necessarily have full support of the Bulgarian Jews at that stage in time. And yes, that's I'd recommend everyone to look into it. He would go on to continue publish various different books, articles, I think books on Torah, various sermons, so on and so forth. And he had his status as Bulgarian hero, war hero from the First World War. And obviously he was a well-known, educated figure over there. So this would make him obviously popular in the broad circles of Bulgarian public life. I think, come what 1934, Alexander I, the king of Yugoslavia, visited Sofia and stayed for a conversation with Rabbi Hannanel. So he was speaking to various different dignitaries and kings from internationally. And this Alexander I would actually have dealt with Jewish communities in various kingdoms. And that will have to be pointed out also. I think come what May the 21st, 1943, it was the time period of the Second World War. And I think there was deportation orders were being given to be delivered to the Jewish community of Bulgaria, or to Sofia at that point in time. And it was not known that the deportation would only be carried out to the field cities, and the community and its leadership believed that they were destined to be sent to the extermination camps. I think community leadership began vigorous action to prevent the deportation. There was another, I think, a rabbi of the community, Daniel Sion, actually would declare a date of fasting and prayer. I think it was on May 24th, because obviously the worry of what could potentially happen. And with Rabbi Hannanel, they would speak to a crowd of thousands in the synagogue. I think the district was the Yochebona district. And I think at that point in time, after, let's say, various speeches, the crowd would begin to move to the king's palaces in order to demonstrate against the deportation. But demonstration was forcefully dispersed by the police, and hundreds of community members, unfortunately, were arrested. After the rally ended, the two rabbis left the place and went to the home of the Metropolitan Stefan, where they met him and informed him of the seriousness of the situation. Now, Metropolitan Stefan called the royal palace and asked to speak with him. But I think at that point in time, Boris III had left his palace for his hunting lodge in the Rila Mountains and could not be reached. Later, Metropolitan Stefan spoke to a crowd of thousands who had come to celebrate the feast. I think there was a specific feast at that point in time of Cyril, and protested the persecution of the Jews. From Rabbi Hannanel continued to the house of someone named Ekaterina Karablova, was an associate with King Boris. And there was an emotional meeting. Rabbi Hannanel received a personal letter from King Boris stating that Jews of Bulgaria were ready to sacrifice their lives for the sake of Bulgaria, but within the borders of their homeland. Karabola added her personal request to the king and forwarded the letter. After the demonstration that had started in Yochevona district was dispersed, the Bulgarian police issued an arrest warrant for Rabbi Hannanel, and he was arrested and taken to headquarters of the Commissariat and would be questioned. At the headquarters, a verbal confrontation took place between him and Alexander Balev. He shouted, reporter, I'm reading the Wikipedia article, it's very important that we learn about the horrors that actually occurred during the 1940s, that terrible time period, and anti-Semitism. So I think it's important to add to this class. By the way, I'm reading here from Wikipedia. I've translated it into English from Hebrew, so I hope it's accurate enough translation. I think he shouted at Rabbi Hannanel, stated that Bulgarian Jews were undermining Bulgaria and were not loyal to the kingdom. You can see all these terrible things and that other nations have done to the Jewish people. Rabbi Hannanel replied that he was a Bulgarian army officer who had been wounded in the war and was wearing the Iron Cross, and that Bulgaria was his homeland, just as it was Balev's homeland. Balev was forced to release Rabbi Hannanel on the grounds that he was a Bulgarian war hero, while he was forced to admit that he would not be able to deport the Jews of Sofia outside the borders of Bulgaria. Okay, let's continue. So very sad what actually occurred after that time period. I recommend everyone to look into the horrors of 1940s and what happened to Bulgarian Jewry at that point in time. But I believe his chief rabbinate position would start a few years later. I think in 1947, the consistory established Jewish Institute of Sciences, including a central library for culture, with the aim of collecting and preserving poems, legends, documents, and folklore. Rabbi Hannanel, there was also Dr. Eli Ashkenazi and Dr. Moritz Marcus were appointed as the heads of this institute. Come December 1948, there was Daniel Sion, I think he was a rabbi previously, somewhere in Bulgaria, immigrated to Israel, And Rabbi Hannanel was appointed in his place as chief rabbi of the Jews of Bulgaria, a very prominent position at a point in time. Now, I've got to state from the outset, a very sad story, what was reported over happened to the previous chief rabbi, Daniel Sion. I think he became a Messianic Jew. It was reported over, which is very, very sad to see that actually occurred at that point in time. I recommend everyone to learn research within regards to that. Now, Rabbi Hannanel would choose to stay in Bulgaria and take care of, it was a smaller community that remained there because, according to him, there were many rabbis in Israel and he was the only one left in Bulgaria. So Rabbi Hannanel was the first chief rabbi of Bulgarian Jews who was born in the country. There was, following a series of rabbis, some Ashkenazi who were brought from outside the country. He would serve in his position until 1960, when the position of chief rabbi, I think at that point in time, discontinued. In 1949, the institute, let's say, was expropriated from the Jewish community and its contents were transferred to the Bulgarian Academy of Sciences. The Bulgarian apartment in March 1949, they would go on to approve a law on religions which established complete separation of religious and state. That same year, most of the community committees were abolished and regional communities were established in Sofia, Plovdiv, Burgas, and Pleven, headed by Rabbi Hannanel. Come May 19th, 1951, the Jewish religious regulations were approved, subject to law, and within this framework, all authority in matters of religion were transferred from the consistory to the Central Jewish Religious Council, and then we refer to the rabbinate afterwards, which was headed by Rabbi Hannanel and consisted of 5 representatives. Regional councils were established that were subordinate to the Central Council. In the 1955, the Bulgarian Academy of Sciences published 2 volumes of the book of Rabbi Hannanel and Dr. Eli Ashkenazi, which dealt with economic and cultural development in the Balkan peoples, especially during the 15th, 16th, and 17th centuries. Rabbi Hannanel was a member of the Bulgarian Academy of Sciences. July 15th, 1956, Rabbi Hannanel visited Israel and met with the president of that point in time, Yitzchak ben Tzvi. During the visit, the rabbi noted in press interviews that there is no anti-Semitism in Bulgaria and the authorities provide fair treatment to the members of the remaining Jewish community in the country. Now, we're going to speak about another specific incident now that actually occurred. I'll just talk about his family and commemoration. I think Rabbi Hannanel was father of 2 daughters who would emigrate to Israel, as did his brothers and sisters. I think one of his grandchildren is someone named Dobby Francis, a businessman, American-Israeli businessman, a television host, and a venture capitalist. It's reported over that he manages assets totaling over $1.6 billion. I think in July 2024, just about a year ago, a street in the Neve Eliezer neighborhood in Tel Aviv, Jaffa, was named after Asher Hannanel over there. Now, just to speak more within regards to, we stated at the beginning that he was actually born in the town of Shuman in 1895. He faced many trials, obviously, through his life, especially at the time period as the chief rabbi. He was persecuted by the pro-Nazi regime, that's what we talked about, and later by communist regime, which eventually removed him from office. He was last chief rabbi. Yes, that's very, very interesting. So he was a Zionist, as we stated before. He was chief rabbi in Sofia when World War II broke out. This would lead to repeated direct conflicts with the government, which at the time, let's say, implemented the 1941 Anti-Semitic Protection of the Nation Act, which we spoke about kind of before. And I think very much we've already spoken about what actually occurred during 1943. I think when at the end of World War II, Rabbi Hannanel became the chief rabbi of Bulgaria following his appointment. It was reported over the Jewish Telegraph Agency reported that in his address, Rabbi Hannanel said, "We will fully support the fight against instigators of war. We are convinced that if the peoples of the world stand firmly on the side of peace, there will be no war." I think, however, there was a communist regime in Bulgaria that sought to destroy all religious denominations, including Judaism. Over the years, tensions between the regime and Rabbi Hannanel escalated as communists tried to close synagogues or use them for other purposes, such as Central Sofia Synagogue, which they actually wanted to turn into a secular concert hall. I'm now reading from the Zemira.org website. In 1962, Rabbi Hannanel was found guilty and sentenced to more than 4 years in prison on obviously false charges. This was anti-Semitic related, as he was returning from an ecumenical conference in Switzerland. He was accused of currency speculation, smuggling Swiss watches, and legally depositing foreign currency in his alleged Swiss bank account. He was released from prison a few months later due to, let's say, deteriorating health. This was obviously at the same framed. Israeli political groups called on the Bulgarian government to allow Rabbi Hannanel to immigrate to Israel in Tel Aviv in early 1962. I think the petitioners nominated him as the city's new chief rabbi, but the requests were taken into account. They were not taken into account, these requests, and he passed away in the year 1964. So very, very interesting. He also wrote many songs, if I'm not mistaken. The Zimur.org website over here will actually take and write down, chronicle it. He was very much connected to the Central Sofia synagogue, and also, I think he was also Hazan, if I'm not mistaken, very close with, I think, Chaim Meshulam, if I'm not mistaken, who happened to be a famous cantor of that specific era in of itself. Now, friends, we're a community here. We're learning about the famous rabbis of yesteryear. If you descend from any of, let's say, these famous rabbis or interesting rabbis we happen to be speaking about, please send me an email. I would love to hear more information from you within regards to the various family members and so on and so forth. If you feel anyone's interested in watching these videos, please share these videos to other people also. That's a great way of, let's say, strengthening the community of here, this special Torah or Jewish learning community, a historical community. Now, on this series, we are not just recording videos on famous rabbis of yesteryear. We also are looking and concentrating on, let's say, the history from Ottoman countries, from the Spanish countries, from North African countries, of really encompassing Sephardic Jewry as a whole. Also on this series, we have a special interesting rabbi or personality every single day that will give over some words of Chizuk for Am Yisrael. Very, very interesting. And we've been doing this now for nearly close to 2 years, which is a phenomenal achievement. Also on this channel, we do daily tidbits on the Daf Yomi. We try to go to different places every single time when we do these videos. I feel that is very, very important. And we are doing videos on Parashat Shuvah, on Rosh Chodesh. Obviously, we're on Chodesh Av, just started over here. And on many other current topics we like to do. We like to broaden our horizons and really learn together. One extra thing we're doing on this series over here is we are recording tours all over Eretz Yisrael, which I feel is very, very important, and it's giving great insights to everybody. So please, everyone, once again, subscribe to the channel, join this community, and tell other people about this also. Let's make the channel bigger and bigger and more meaningful and inspirational. And on that note, I think it's time to wish you all a great day. Good night. Take care, and thanks everyone for watching. Have a great day.